100%. Did you have an affair? If you happen, like, if Neil came home, Megan, crawled into bed, was like his business time, and you were like, I'm a little sleepy, but I'll give it up. I'm going for it. This was okay. You had some new moves. That was interesting. And the next morning he wakes up and was like, what happened? I had my soul abducted and someone else Roger G.
Yeah. No, I didn't do anything. Annyeong, welcome to Afternoona Delight, where Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies.
Hey, everybody.
Hello. Hi there.
All right, so this is going to be a very meaty pod. We have a lot to say about the drama we're talking about tonight, but we always start off with a little bit of lighthearted banter. And I've been saving this one this week because something happened to me on so I had a very Monday. We record on Wednesdays, but Mondays, like, this was the Mondayest Monday I've ever had. And so my husband, Monday morning, we're trying to like get 3 kids out the door to school, myself off to work. And then, my husband works in a closet since COVID. So he's trying to get to his closet. So, these are a busy time. And he bikes the girls to school on Monday morning, like on every morning. He has an electric bike, a big cargo minivan bike, and he likes to bike the girls to school. I don't know if they like it, but he likes it. So he went outside with his giant bike to get them to school. And I was like, oh, he's got the car keys. And, I've got to like do my thing. And so I went out on the front porch and I was like, yoo-hoo. I'm like, by the way, you have the car keys. Do you mind just sticking them in the mailbox? And then I'll just grab them when I go out the door and like be on my way. And my husband turns around and he's like, no. He's like, I got you. I'm just going to throw these at you. And as he says it, I was like, no, please don't. Because first, I don't want anyone to throw fucking shit at me when I'm on a 2nd story balcony. Secondly, I can't catch good. And thirdly, like, it's just not good practice. Like, just stick it in the mailbox. So I'm trying to say no, but the keys are already in the air. And what happens is the keys fly past my plane of vision and they go onto our roof.
No.
Onto our 2nd story roof. And we have a tall, like, we're a small house, but we're skinny and tall.
Nick!
So the keys are on the roof of our home.
I would have killed him. What was his face when he saw this happen?
His face went from like smiling to crestfallen. And I'm a pretty, like, I would say I'm the one that doesn't get too worried at home about things. I was not my best self this day. I was just like, what the F has just happened?
Yeah.
And why are the keys on the roof? And I'm also upset because the only person who's going to go on the roof is to get them is him. And I'm like, this is not the day I want you like falling off the roof either.
Right.
So I had spare keys. I went to work. And then while I was at work, I found some levity and I texted him like, okay, it is actually kind of funny that you threw the keys on the roof. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty funny. And so then I got home and he was borrowing the ladder from the neighbor. The neighbor had like a construction ladder because our house, like I said, we don't have a big house, but it's narrow and tall.
Yeah.
And so I watched Nick climbing up onto the roof and I was like, I'm just going to block this out of my mind. And I just want to amend this to say the last time Nick was on the roof was during the California fires of 2020, which made the news and they were a big deal. Nick went on the roof at that point, which I didn't feel great about because, again, if he fell, like, he would die, basically. And so I evacuated with my kids and I was like, please do not go on the roof. At this point, the gutters have sailed. They are what they are, but don't go on the roof. So I was driving with my kids further in town, like in Santa Cruz, where we had evacuated to. And he called and he's like, just, I've been on the roof and I've cleaned the gutters. Like exactly what he had said he wouldn't do. And I wasn't happy. So as I was driving, I was unhappy that this happened. And I was letting him know that I was really unhappy he had made this choice in like less charitable ways than I'm using now. And a police officer threw their lights on behind me. And so I get pulled over. And this is like, our town was in disaster mode. Like there's smoke everywhere. It was just like a shit show. A police officer comes up to the window and he's like, do you know why I'm pulling you over? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea what happened. I'm like, did I run a stoplight? Like, I don't know what happened. He's like, do you mind getting out of the car for me? So I get out of the car. He goes, how much have you had to drink today? And I was like, nothing. I'm like with my kids, and we were just down like by the beach looking at the fire. And he's like, he starts to have me do a sobriety test. He's like, can you like walk in the line? Can you touch your nose? And I'm like doing it. I'm like, do you mind just telling me like what? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what happened? Yeah. He's like, first, you were in a 30-mile-per-hour lane, and you were driving 7 miles an hour. Secondly, you were swerving all over the road.
So you're yelling at your husband at 7 miles an hour.
I'm like, can I give you some context, sir? I'm like,
at 7 miles an hour.
We're on the evacuation line, because we were 1 block from the evacuation line. I'm like, we're on the evacuation line. And I just found out that my husband had gone on our roof to clear the gutters, and he has no business being on our roof. Oh my God. And I was really unhappy about it. And the cop's just like, ma'am, just go. Just get in the car. So that was the last time
I don't care.
So anyway, Nick goes on the roof, and then he finds the keys, but the keys he had thrown, they were under our solar panels, because of course we had solar panels. So he had to like get on his belly like a lizard and like jimmy along at like, however high off the ground we are. Like, this again is very high, and like get the keys. And I just want to say that's my banter I've been saving to talk about, because my husband's fine.
That's good.
But it was just like, I feel like this week Mercury, I don't think is in retrograde yet, but I feel like shit's been kind of just going square and sideways for no reason.
I feel like I've been in a funk this week. I don't know what it is. So there's something going on. I don't think Mercury's in retrograde yet, but it's like coming or something.
But I'm going to tie this into the pod now to say.
Well, wait, hold on. I want to say something before you. Then you can tie it into the pod. We can go back. So I had to get my driver's license renewed. It was actually like really expired. I actually didn't realize my license was expired until we had to go get my kid's passports.
You know your license was expired?
I'm sitting. I did not know my license was expired. So for some reason they still approved the licenses, because as soon as I went home, I like did it online. But anyway, so it's like 2 months at this point that I've had like the camera card. I don't know. It's probably different in every state, but I had like the card that I had to take to the DMV. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. So I'd been really busy the week before, and I hadn't had a chance to listen to Afternoona Asks, which is the new podcast that we have like under, like it's under our channel. And it's Grace and Sarah who host it. And I hadn't got a chance to listen to it, and I was like sad about it. So I was like, I'm going to sit. The DMV takes, all morning. So I sat there and I listened to their pod, and I have to say, the time flew. Truly, the time flew, because I was sitting there listening to their pod. First of all, like, I just love it. They're so good. They are so good.
They are.
I told them that their podcast felt like a warm hug, because it did. I felt like I was just listening to like friends chatting. And so I'm like laughing to myself, and I'm wearing like my AirPods. So like, I don't know if people even realize, they probably just thought I was like sitting there talking to myself. And then Grace was going over like pronunciations. Like, she was talking about how a lot of the syllables in Korean are like aspirated. So you kind of like breathe through them. And so I'm sitting there like practicing. I'm like, Jichang-ok. Like, I'm like practicing how to say these words while I'm sitting at the DMV. Again, people are like, who is this girl? But, I just need to like shout out how great it was. There's more coming from them, but if you haven't, checked them out, please do. Again, it's just like right on our channel, so it's easy to find. But it was really good, and I had a great time listening to it. So thanks again, Sarah and Grace, and thanks for making my time at the DMV go very fast.
Yeah, I want to second that, because I was listening at the health club on the treadmill, and I'm just smiling while I'm running on the treadmill. And people are probably like, what? Like, nobody likes running that much. And like, seriously, the time just flew, and I didn't want it to end. I remember when I first like looked at how long it was, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have time to listen to this, before we put it out. And so I didn't get to listen to it until it was out, because, I trust them to put out good content. But that's when I have my time, is when I'm working out. And so I put in my earbuds and I listened, and I was just like absolutely delighted and so impressed at how well they did their first time out. I mean, I didn't doubt that they would be awesome.
Yeah, I felt a little weird because I was like, it's not like I had low expectations or anything. Like, I thought it would be good, but I think it just, like, they exceeded my expectations. I mean, I know how we sounded when we started. So I just thought they did a great job. And again, just the content to me was so interesting. I loved all the subjects that they talked about. They're really cute because they had like a little bit of a script, but sometimes they'd be like, oh, sorry, we're going off on a tangent. And I'm just like, all the tangents, like, go ahead. Because all their tangents were just as interesting as everything else they were saying. So anyway, check it out. And thank you, Sarah and Grace.
Yeah, just to frame kind of setting listener expectations, we are looking to start to like pivot to offering, you know, more adjacent podcasts. So you've seen we have Afternoona Army, which is a very BTS focused space. We now have Afternoona Asks because, you know, we're three white ladies who write books that live in the US. And so we can like take a good stab at story structure and we can talk a lot about, you know, whatever our raunchy hearts desire when it comes to random stuff. But yeah, I think that like having like lived experience, you know, holding Asian identities and being able to speak to things kind of like more deeply and with more context is something that our listenership and us in general, because we consider ourselves, you know, listeners of this pod, but engaging with dramas that are, you know, primarily Asian dramas, we're missing often context and nuance. And so we're just so excited to be able to give listeners, you know, this new insight into a lot of the content. And we're excited to engage in it as listeners ourselves. So, okay. To segue, I just need to just also say, because this is a week, really. You know, I mean, I started out with The Keys on the Roof. I'm going to be ending it with like my ultimate bias dropping, you know, their album and documentary, which is Suga, August D, Min Yoon Gi from BTS. But sandwiched in that is this drama that we're going to be doing. And today we're doing Alchemy of Souls.
Part 1. Just part 1.
And I just need to talk about how I finished watching it because I'm the last one to finish watching it. So last night I was on episode, I had to do 18, 19, and 20. And I was like, okay, no problem. I can knock out, you know, 3 episodes. So I start watching 18 on my couch. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I come to, and I'm like, what's happening? I grab my phone. It's 2:30 in the morning. And I'm like, shit. Because it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm like, I have 3 full episodes to go. And I think
they're like an hour and a half long.
And I think I fell asleep in like the first minute and a half of this drama coming on. And it has no bearing on the drama. Like I was just very tired. Right. So I'm like, you know, in the Middle Ages, I brought this up in the past on the pod. I apologize if you've heard this. Fun fact, in the Middle Ages, they had 2 sleeps. They had sleep 1, where you go to bed kind of with the sun, and then you would get up kind of randomly in the middle of the night, read a book, have some sex, do some prayers, whatever, and then go to sleep again. So I was just like, I'm middle-aging this shit. So I watched episode 18 and 19 tonight, like last night, from like 2:30 to 4:30 in the morning. And then I was like, I'm not finishing like this. Like, I'm not going to finish like this. Like, I can do better. But I'm like, I have to go to sleep. So I got into bed. I couldn't fall asleep. So I just laid there till 6 and got up. And then I finished watching this drama at lunch. I just like shut the door, pulled the blinds, and finished it. So I am very fresh to the plot point of this drama is what I'm saying.
Right. And also very sleep deprived.
And completely sleep deprived. And so as a result, I decided to make a very bad choice and drink Fireball whiskey, which is never a good choice on a good day. And especially a poor choice if you're a mom of 3 on a Wednesday night.
Do you just have Fireball laying around the house?
Dude, I don't know why.
Like, I don't think I've had Fireball plenty of times, but I've never purchased it myself.
I have not either. It's just in my house. I have so much shit in my house that I don't know where it comes from. People will be like, where did your kid get that outfit? I'm like, literally no idea.
I actually understand that.
So there's just things in my house that are just in my house and I never know why they're in my house. But
like, where'd this cat come from?
Yeah, why do I have this cat? What's going on? Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Do you still have a dog? I feel like I've not heard about Meadow in a long time.
Yeah, anyway. Of course I haven't heard about her since she dragged you across the street.
What do you want me to say? I've got a dog. She's there. She exists.
I need to see a picture of her from far away that shows you showing affection for her.
So my husband today, last story, and then we'll go. My husband today, I checked in with him because I had to run out the door very early this morning. So I called him to just kind of be like, hey, sorry I didn't get to like say goodbye or anything today. And he's like, I've just been feeling really good today about our interaction we had this morning. And I was like, I don't even like remember talking to you this morning. What happened? He's like, how we connected over Meadow. Cause like you were really affectionate towards Meadow, which is our dog. Spoiler, like I'm not the biggest dog person. So I was like, I'm like, do you mind telling me more? Cause I don't like remember saying anything about the dog. He's like, you said, it's so funny she gets her squeaky toy because every morning she comes with her squeaky toy. And so the bar is so low in my house.
That is your connection to the dog.
Leah, that is the
acknowledging something she does as a habit.
And then Nick was like, I'm just feeling so good about you and your relationship with the dog right now.
That is ludicrous. Meanwhile, so there's construction going on like right in back of my house. There's like dump trucks and like, I don't know, diggers. That's what I call them. But a backhoe, I guess, or whatever. And I actually hold my cat up to the part of the window that doesn't have a screen. Hold him in the air so he can get a better look at the dump truck because he really likes it. Meanwhile, that's what I'm doing with my animals. And you're just like making one single observation.
I said, look at her with her squeaky toy. And apparently he's like, man, I've just been hanging on to like how great
that is love.
That's the lowest bar I've ever heard, and I'm glad you're meeting that low bar, though. I mean, good for you, Leah.
I know.
Like literally just narrating what is happening.
There is more where that came from, baby. More where that came from. I'll be like, look, I observed Meadow wagging her tail half-heartedly when I walked into the house. Apparently, and make him think I'm not a monster. Okay. Speaking of not a monster.
Okay. So this podcast started because we all fell in love with K-drama and needed an outlet to fangirl excessively over the writing, the acting, the cinematography, just all of it. But despite our mutual love of dramas in general, those of you who have been listening to us for a while know that it is a rare occurrence, more rare than, say, an ice stone, when we all love a drama or a hero or both with all of our hearts and all of our souls. But over the past few weeks, as we've been checking in with each other, as we consumed Alchemy of Souls Part 1, or Part 2 if you're me, it's clear that we are in rare Ice Stone territory. To prove it, let's start with a quick rapid-fire survey on our leads and ensemble. And as always, we'll begin spoiler-free and then let you know when the spoilers will abound. So, I put a list of characters on our script here, and basically I just said in 3 words or less, without spoilers, let's describe each character. And we each kind of split it up and took a few. So here we go. All right. So for Mudok, I had Badass Sorceress Master. Janguk, Big Sword Energy.
Nice.
Which I think needs to be like a new tier in our Patreon.
It should.
And Soyul. I had 2 because one was I just wanted to sing all by myself for our little Soyul. And then also the serious one, Strong Silent Savior.
Donggu, I put Golden Retriever Energy, but not a Hamby. So Yu In-soo plays Donggu, and he also plays Guinam in All of Us Are Dead, and Guinam was a fan favorite character, even though he's evil. So it's also crazy because he's like, he plays this.
But he plays these 2 characters. I can't get past it. Like,
yeah, because Guinam is just a mean bully zombie, and he's like just a terrible person. He's so violent. He's a murderer, and then with
one eye.
And then in Alchemy of Souls, he is just a golden retriever, even with blonde hair. I mean, golden retriever. I loved him so much.
All right, so then we have the little princess, Jin Cho-yun. Cute snooze.
I kind of agree.
I mean, I don't blame you. The crown prince, Go On. I put deep voiced leader. I don't know. I loved him.
I love him. Love him.
Leah, what you wrote?
Park Jin, Daddy's home.
Daddy's home. That's so great. Maid servant Kim Do-ju. I put that she's a big pink heart. I love maid servant Kim like you don't understand. I want to drink with maid servant Kim. I want to like gossip with maid servant Kim. I loved her.
Then we have our favorite and often inebriated healer, Hyo-yum. And I did 4 words. Big drinker, small brain.
Oh, he kind of does, though.
And the ageless Master Chul, I put Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I love that.
I don't know if you get that, Megan.
Yeah, Megan, do you know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is?
I don't.
He's this character from this movie franchise.
Oh, you know what? Shut up.
It's called Star Wars. It's hard. It's very esoteric. But he is the reclusive master.
I know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. God.
All right. So while Jang-ok and Moodok would be considered the leads, this drama has an amazing ensemble of heroes and villains. So as far as rich ensembles go, what would you consider a comp to Alchemy of Souls? And I'm thinking of just this great cast that I loved everybody in it.
So I thought Mr. Sunshine, because I thought the humor was similar. Then Love Between Fairy and Devil, just because, again, you have like similar humor, but you have this like epic, like fantastical story. And then I would say All of Us Are Dead, only because it did have like a large cast and you had like competing motivations.
And Guinam.
And you have Guinam. And if you haven't met Guinam yet, like you're missing out.
I mean, I'm hot for Guido.
I am too! Why?
I don't know.
And
I'm not hot for
And he has a rockin' mullet as Guinam,
He does. He does have a good haircut as Guinam. Oh, he's just so good.
All right. So for me, look, I'm just going to go basic because I know what Amy wants to do, and I'm going to let Amy do her thing. But I'm just going to throw in like low-hanging fruit and say Tail the Nine-Tailed, simply because we're dealing with like a magical universe set also in kind of like some reality with a lot of lore, with a lot of rules, with a lot of subtext, with a lot of history, with a lot of people who have like dealt with drama that's been going on for like generations. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a rich magical lore that definitely has like a lot of history behind it.
No, I don't know why I didn't think of Tail the Nine-Tailed. I mean, I think overall the story isn't written obviously as cleanly as Alchemy of Souls, but you're right. And there's even like soul stuff in Tail the Nine-Tailed. So.
Yeah, totally. Okay, yes. So, look.
Please tell us about a drama we've never heard you talk about ever. I mean, people are going to be like, "Why do I listen to this podcast?" Because we only talk about this drama.
I only talk about I'm Not a Robot.
Look,
yeah, we know. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to talk about Goblin, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yeah,
and even more so in part 2, which I'm not going to spoil part 2. But here's the biggest sort of parallel for me, and it's what I love so much, and what I'm realizing that I love so much about the love stories and dramas that I love. And I love the sad love. And I love the impossible true love, sort of scenario where you have these two people that are, one true loves, but they cannot be together and possibly survive the relationship. Like literally life and death scenario. And you've got that in Goblin. And because this is not at all a spoiler, this from the get-go, that the goblin wants to find the goblin's bride because what she can do is she can pull out the magical invisible sword that has been in his chest for 900 plus years, and then he can finally be at peace and die, right? The problem is what happens when you fall in love with the goblin's bride. And so in this, you've got a mage who is in love with a soul-shifting assassin who, if anybody finds out, A, that she's the assassin, and B, that she is a soul shifter, like those are 2 reasons why she can't exist. Mm-hmm. So it's doomed from the start, yet you watch the whole thing thinking, but these 2 are meant for each other. it's got to work out. How is it going to work out? I don't know how it's going to work out. And I love that tension. And so, yes, I love Goblin. I love Alchemy of Souls. And I love that parallel between them.
I agree.
So there, Leah.
I like Goblin too.
I know. Alchemy of Souls is a Studio Dragon production that aired on TVN and Netflix. Written by the Hong sisters, it tells the story of the fictional country of Daeho, a place we are told in the opening sequence that cannot be found in maps or history. It is a country ruled by powerful mages, focusing on Jang-uk, the son of a mage who, for reasons, had Jang-uk's gate of energy sealed upon his birth so that he is unable to access his powers in order to become a true mage. Until he crosses paths with Naksu, a powerful sorceress and hunted assassin who uses the forbidden Alchemy of Souls to swap souls with a young, blind servant woman in order to escape death. Once in the body of Mudok, Naksu has no powers. She agrees to team up with Jang-uk, like playing his servant, but really being his master and training him to be a mage in return for him keeping her identity a secret. What we get from here is comedy, romance, bromance, palace intrigue, trust, betrayal, and petrified soul shifters who feed on human energy. It's way more than any synopsis can contain or explain, and it is quite possibly my number one new drama. Ooh. I don't know. I still can't decide between it and Goblin. I keep going back and forth. So anyway, Leah and Megan, you two have only watched part 1 so far. I mean, we know Leah literally just finished it hours ago. So you may have different assessments of the drama as I do, since, part 1 ends, I think, in a cliffhanger. We'll get to that though. What are your thoughts right now as far as how you'd rate the drama based on just part 1?
So this is the thing. I remember you were like, part 1 ends on this massive cliffhanger. And look, it's a cliffhanger. Don't get me wrong, but I personally felt that there was a conclusion in a way. I think it's obvious there's more to come. I'm not saying it's not a cliffhanger, but I felt like a sense of completion. I felt like they were definitely ending part 1, and that they were, I don't know how to explain it properly, but I think that's one of the reasons I rate part 1 a 5 out of 5 is because of the actual final 5 minutes of this.
Which we can't talk about yet.
Which I can't talk about yet. But I will explain more later when we can do spoilers. But, okay. I'm going to use Game of Thrones as an example. Okay. So Game of Thrones ends on a massive cliffhanger on the last book that George R. R. Martin has written. We still don't have the next book, where Jon Snow dies.
What?
He just dies.
Spoiler alert. No, I'm kidding. It's been years.
Well, we also know he doesn't die, but now we know. But my point, so that to me, obviously, is a massive cliffhanger. You're like, all right, he's fucking dead. If they would have had him, come back, just in the last 5 minutes of that, or last, page of that book, he rises from the dead, I would have been like, oh, damn. That's a good ending. Because there's more to come. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because especially when you've got a writer like George R. R. Martin who kills the main characters.
Right.
If Jon Snow dies, you're like, well, fuck, Jon Snow's dead.
That's just and it's also just a major cliffhanger. Whereas, but if he would have risen him back, I'd be like, oh, now we're gonna have a really good story going forward. But I still would have felt in a conclusion in a way. So I think that's why.
Right, it's a setup. There's an arc. I will agree that there is an arc, but
I just want to say it's not really, it doesn't even really need to be an argument. It's just I'm actually arguing this point to say that's why I love part 1 so much.
I got you.
It's because I thought that they were setting up part 2 brilliantly. And I was like, that's how you write a part 1. If you're going to give me 2 seasons of a show, which I'm not a fan of, that's how you end the first season, in my opinion. So I loved part 1, 5 out of 5, 10 million stars. 10 million stars.
Okay. So look, I felt like you just tried to thread some needles there, Megan, because you made a bold statement and then you walked it back a bit.
I did! I said, no, because I used an adjective. I said I didn't think it ended on a huge cliffhanger. I thought it ended on a cliff.
It ended on listeners, it ends on a cliffhanger, like a textbook definition.
It does.
It is an unresolved plot at the end of season 1.
Right.
It doesn't end like as they're like, who is knocking at the door? And they all turn
right. Okay.
Resolve. Like 2 very big WTFs happen.
Yeah. True.
And then it's over. So.
Also, I feel like none of our listeners told us this. Like, thanks, guys. None of you warned us.
I don't want it, but I didn't want to know any. I'm glad I didn't know.
I'm glad it. Yeah.
So
now you all know it ends on a cliffy.
It ends on a cliffy. So my biggest fear was that it wasn't going to end as an HEA. It doesn't. So if you're curious, it doesn't. But
it's not done.
It's also an open end. Like, I don't feel like it ends where you're just like, life is horrid either.
Right. That's what
I don't know what's going to happen next, which is the textbook definition of what? A cliffhanger.
Right. A cliffhanger. I know. I do like, though, they leave it with like hope. I don't know how to explain it. I loved it.
And
I fucking loved it.
If the drama had been like, look, we're just going to leave you here.
Oh, God.
I would have committed arson on
Same. I would have been there with like the Molotov cocktails, throwing it through the windows.
Okay. So let's keep going now that we've identified that it is in fact a cliffhanger. I don't know. I'm like,
Thank you, Leah.
Is a cliffhanger.
Well, here's the thing. We knew that there were 2 seasons, but it's really 2 parts, which I think is a little bit different, like a part 1 and a part 2, because it is all one story. It's not like we keep talking about Tale of the Nine-Tailed. Like Tale of the Nine-Tailed had a season, it ended, and now it has a brand new season with brand new stuff, and everything was resolved-ish, in season 1. It wasn't like we've been waiting.
Right.
So this, in my head, I was like, oh, it's a season 1, season 2. We might not have time to do both. Maybe we'll just watch season 1 and just do a pod on season 1. And the 3 of us had talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ends part 1. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, she messaged us and she's like, guys, we can't do only part 1.
I'm like, it's not done. It's not done.
It.
And I need to continue right now. And I did. I mean, it's been a long time since I binged something hard, and I binged, 30 episodes, all of like an hour and a half each.
I was actually going to say that you have not, Amy, I'm speaking to Amy, you have not binged a drama like this in a long time.
No.
Like, it's been a long time. So that just shows, and she would not stop talking about it. And
I know. I've been super annoying, and I will continue to be super annoying until you guys watch part 2.
No, and I am literally starting part 2. So I'm just saying it was cool to see, because I don't think you've done that in a long time. So it was cool to see how excited you were.
And it's a wonderful feeling when that happens, when something just hooks you so hard that you can't stop.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am. So I'm really digging that we get to talk about this tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, we had, we've all had similar reactions. Like, why didn't we watch this drama sooner? So let's kind of, let's dive into that a little bit. Why didn't we watch this sooner? Like for me, I can say that I don't have time to watch dramas that aren't on our list for the pod. Right. So, except that I did already, do part 2 of this because it was in my soul and I needed to, but I had just been keeping up with the pod, and we finally put this on the schedule, and I was like, oh, good, because it's been on my list of, want to watch for a long time. But why do you guys think it took us so long to watch this? And when I say so long, like, it hasn't even been out for a year, I don't think. Like, I think part 1 came out last summer.
Oh, really? So it hasn't been out that long? Okay, I thought maybe we were really far behind.
No. Part 2 just dropped, I think, in December, so.
Okay. So I'll be honest, I'm being super honest, I was not super interested in watching this. Nothing about it really was up my alley.
I don't understand that.
I know.
You like fantasy.
I do like fantasy, but it can be a hit or miss for me, and I have to be in the mood. And at the time, I was watching contemporary BLs, and that's what I wanted to watch. And I actually didn't even remember how it got on our schedule. And I remember I messaged you, Amy, because I was like, I'm not really excited about watching this. And you're like, really? Well, give it a shot. Everyone liked it. And I was like, okay. So I just want people to understand my mindset going in. I was not that excited about it. And then I freaking loved it. So I was this reluctant, viewer. It wasn't even I was excited. I didn't even have high expectations, and I ended up I remember
it was homework. It was homework.
It felt like homework. And I remember the first episode, like, I liked the first episode a lot, but I was like, oh, this is going to be really dense. Oh, man. Like, I hope I can, like, stick with it.
Because it's confusing when it starts.
It can be, and it's just a lot. Like, you have to pay attention. The dialogue matters. I mean, I had to rewind several times to, like, make sure I got the dialogue. Like, I had to read it again. But it was extremely worth it, is what I'm trying to say. To me, I think this is what Game of Thrones wanted to be and gave us the promise of in the beginning. And by that, I mean, like, the tight plot and, like, the shifting motivations of characters. And then it also has, like, a little bit of the Lord of the Rings thrown in, because there's, like, this ice stone that's a lot like, you know, the ring they want to destroy in Mordor. But then it had this, like, amazing Mr. Queen-esque, like, that traditional, to me, like, Korean sageuk humor that I loved. Like, the humor in this was up my alley. I was like, on board with everything. So yeah, that's it. Like, just, I had to be swayed, and the entire drama swayed me.
So I just wish somebody had sold it to me. And how I wish they had sold it to me was saying, look, this is a slow burn with a less than loved bastard whose
power, tell me it's a bastard,
has been blocked from him. And he becomes a pupil to a scrappy assassin who's also a master, who wants her revenge and doesn't care who she has to hurt to get it, except that is until she learns what love is. I feel like that would have sold me.
Excellent pitch. Excellent pitch. Why aren't you telling me...
I want to watch that drama.
Why aren't you telling me it's a bastard hero? It's a Jon Snow hero.
Whose power's locked away.
And everyone wants the Ice Stone, which is like the ring to rule them all. Why didn't anyone tell me this? Because that's what it's like, you know? Oh, it's so good.
Okay. Well, you know, we're going to end the spoiler-free section here because there's just too much to talk about. So we're going to segue for a minute to our K-pop rec of the week. And what do we have this week?
So the rec this week is called Dear My Light, and it is by Dawn. And look, I'm not going to get into, like, the backstory of Dawn.
Get into it, kind of. I mean,
Hyuna. Okay. So Dawn was formerly signed under Cube Entertainment, and so was Hyuna. It was found out that they had a relationship. They were basically both kicked out of Cube because they were like, we're staying together. We're in love. I mean, they're a very, very famous Korean couple, Korean K-pop couple. They then signed with Psy's company, you know, like Gangnam Style Psy. They released solo music. They also released a song together called Ping Pong, which is like a lot of fun, and their outfits are crazy. And, you know, I think a lot of people, they had like matching tattoos. Like, I think a lot of people thought they'd get married, and they recently broke up. And Dawn released this song called Dear My Light. And it's Dawn, by the way, D-A-W-N. This song, I wept. And I very rarely, like, weep. And it's a 3-minute song. He moved me to tears in under 3 minutes. It's a breakup song to, like, end all breakup songs. And it's just him singing. There's not a bunch of, like, backing vocals. I don't think there's any. It's just him, this, like, simple melody. And he doesn't vilify her, and I don't think he puts himself on a pedestal either. He's just basically like, this is the love we had. Thank you for the love. Now, like, go shine my light without me. Like,
it's a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful melody. It's like super simple. Guys, it is so good. And I have listened to it on repeat, like crying. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Honestly, I'm like almost tearing up thinking about it. What it made me come away with is I was like, I'm so happy for Dawn and Hyuna, even though I don't know them. I'm happy for them that they had a love like that in their life. Like, good for them. That they, you know, were loved and loved others that hard. So check it out for yourself because it's beautiful, but there also feels like hope in it. I don't think it's necessarily just sad. So it's called Dear My Light, and it's by Dawn.
If you enjoy our podcast, you have our patrons to thank.
at least in part. Afternoona Delight Patreon allows us to keep creating content for y'all to enjoy. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting us there. And not to brag, but our Patreon community is pretty awesome, and you can join at a tier that feels good to you. Gain access to fun perks like K-drama posts, monthly Patreon-only bonus podcasts, and even a live K-drama support group on Zoom. Because we know firsthand what it's like to have no one to talk to about those crazy plot twists, amazing characters, and all those feelings. And look, no one should have to walk that walk alone. So learn more by visiting afternoonadelight.com. That's www.afternoonadelight.com. And hey, while you're on the website, you can check out Afternoona Delight podcast merch, find links to book recommendations, bop along to our K-pop Rex, glow up your skin with K-merch Rex, find all of our social media, and a link to our email so you can send us recommendations or feedback. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you pop over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review? It really helps with our discoverability. 감사합니다.
So what kinds of things do you both like to do when you drive?
Pay attention to the road? Is this a trick question?
All right, how about when you fold laundry?
Why am I folding laundry in this scenario?
Read, friends. I was trying to get you to say read.
You could just ask us if we like to read when we drive, or... Wait, how are you reading when you're driving?
With Audible. You know, our sponsor, who is the leading creator and provider of premium audio storytelling, enriching the lives of millions of listeners every day. I listen to audiobooks on my commute to work, in the car.
Oh yeah, I totally do that. I love my Audible subscription.
Then why'd you leave me hanging with the whole driving thing? Forget it. It's not important. What is important is that now our listeners can get a 30-day free trial of Audible Premium Plus from Afternoona Delight. Do you know what they get with that free trial?
Actually, I do. They get 1 audiobook credit, 2 if they are Prime members, which is good for any premium selection, and they get to keep that audiobook.
They also get the whole Audible Plus catalog of podcasts like Afternoona Delight, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals.
And with the Plus catalog, you can listen all you want, no credits needed.
And Audible sends you a reminder email before your trial ends.
Sounds like a great way to spend 30 days to me, especially if you're heading outside for a walk, have a long commute to work, or just want to hear one of many talented narrators really bring your book to life. All you have to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/afternoona to sign up, and you're ready to download your first listen. Enjoy!
So, okay, folks, that ends our spoiler-free discussion of Alchemy of Souls. So if you haven't watched it and don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to, like, hunker down in front of your favorite Netflix viewing device for 30 episodes of fun.
I mean, you can start with 20. You could start with the first 20. You can.
And then, because I had to take a little breather after 20. I'll be honest with you. I needed a timeout from Daeho. Now I'm getting back into it. So yeah, let's dive on in now. So, let's start.
I know.
Let's start with Jung-uk, because Jung-uk, why is he and Lee Jae-uk's portrayal of him one of the best characters we've come across in K-drama, or just like life in general? Amy wrote this. Amy did not mince words with any of these questions. It's so funny.
I mean, do you disagree?
No.
Okay. Well, I want to point out that, like, I started watching Extraordinary You today, just the first episode, and he's in it. And it's from 2019, so it's not like super old. It's a few years old, but I'm having a really hard time looking at him in a school uniform.
Right. Ugh.
So I mean, he's just as beautiful, and he has an earring, and I love it. But I'm like, no, because you're already like a little baby man as my Mr. Mage. But yeah, I love him. Mm-hmm. And he had me from episode 1. My reaction to him, I think, was very similar to my reaction to Lee Min-ho in The King Eternal Monarch. I didn't know Lee Jae-wook from anything other than Move to Heaven, and it was a powerful role, but it was a side role, and I was more focused on Lee Jae-hoon's character Sang-gu and Sang-gu's sort of, emotional reaction to what happened with Lee Jae-wook's character, and I won't spoil that for anybody who hasn't seen Move to Heaven because it's amazing, so you should go see it. But Jang-wook, he has done some forbidden sorcery on me, and I don't want to take away what you're going to say, Megan, because I'd reacted to yours, but I agree with everything that you say about him. So we'll get to yours in a second. But I also think that aside from him being so perfect in so many ways, he's also flawed, which makes him multidimensional and makes him human, even though he's ends up being a super powerful mage. I love that he's not just this perfect hero. And I don't know why I'm continually surprised by my love of swords. I mean, Kim Shin, Egon, and now Jang-wook. Apparently, kings or men powerful enough to be kings who can slice and dice are my sexuality.
I love it.
Yeah, so when I started this drama, I didn't even know he was the main character. Guys, you don't understand. I knew nothing about this drama going in.
You didn't figure out he was the main character?
I thought he was the main character, but I wasn't sure if he was going to be the main love interest. I had no idea if this was going to be a massive cast where there wasn't kind of a soul. I didn't know. I had no idea. There were all these, they were here's the 4 seasons. I didn't know. And I actually wouldn't say he did hook me right away. I was interested in everyone. I was taking in the buffet of characters, but when he hooked me, he hooked me. So he's earnest, he's smart, he's good. I mean, he can also be selfish. Amy said, he's definitely flawed. He's full of green flags. He wears the fuck out of those mage outfits. Don't even get me started on his sword. And one thing I want to mention, they always talk about how smart he is. This is one drama. You know how there's that, I don't like the term too stupid to live, but that is a common kind of romance term. If there's a character that is just dumb as rocks and isn't picking up on things. The characters in this drama were beyond smart. They, I do have to say, sometimes they made connections that I was that's a reach. How are you making that connection? But they were right. And they had to make the connection to kind of further the plot and further. So I was fine with it. And I mean, these are mages. It's a fantasy world, whatever. But I think what I liked about it is they kept saying Jang-wook is smart. Well, he's fucking smart. He makes so many connections that I was how? Because I'm not smart enough.
Because nobody lets him, nobody will train him in magic. So all he does is he reads. True. He knows all of the things.
He's really smart. Well, I also just think he's naturally smart.
Are you talking about the invisible poem?
Well, not even that. Just and even Daddy Pak Jin would make connections, and I'm how in the world are you getting that from this one tiny clue? But again, don't care. Go on and be brilliant and get this plot moving.
Yeah, and listeners, don't come at us with plot holes because I'm sure there are some. We don't care. We don't care.
There's a lot of coincidences.
Oh, of course there is. I don't care.
So what?
I mean, I don't care, but I'm just saying there's a lot.
Oh, of course there is. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So for me, for me, I had a pretty sneaking suspicion out of the gate that we were going to be spending a lot of time with Jang Gang.
I don't know why I was clearly I'm the slow one.
So here, Megan, let me tell you a hint that you can do. If you look up a drama on Asian Wiki, the people listed at the top.
Amy. I did not go to Asian Wiki. I didn't want to know.
I have to know all of the things.
Yeah, I don't tend to look up either, but I mean, I know what I have human eyes.
Okay, you know what? Okay.
But what is okay? So the question is not when did we recognize he would become an important person to us? It was why is he the best hero that we've come across in K-drama or just general anything?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, look, again, who doesn't like an emotional boo-boo? But here's the thing with him. And so this is where Alchemy of Souls part 2 will be interesting to see more damage. But in part 1, I feel there's damage, But he's scrappy.
Oh, so scrappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has had a real shitty go of it. His, the questions around his birth are not good. He doesn't even know how bad they are, really. He just knows daddy doesn't love him too much.
Like daddy issues by the dozen.
Yeah. And, so he knows he's got the potential to have a lot of power. All his buddies have all this power. His power is all, not for you. You don't get to have any of that power. And he's not I was just watching Ted Lasso last night and how they were describing someone as, I don't know, Amy, are you watching Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
They described him, what's the type of figurine, the ceramic figurines?
Oh. Precious Moments?
Precious Moments. No, they said Precious Moment figurine.
Precious Moment.
He's a Precious Moment figurine, which basically was good for, he's a fragile bitch. Jungkook is not a fragile bitch. Life has knocked him hard, and, he's still standing, and he has hope, and he's like, I'm going to figure my shit out. And that's attractive, because I like that there's hurt and damage, just because it makes him interesting and more well-rounded. But I also appreciate he has this innate optimism to him. And I think that's what also drives the love interest to him too, because if he was just like a himbro or just a sad sack, I think that Naksu would be like, yeah, okay.
Right. He's not wallowing by any means.
He's got this innate goodness that is so attractive because it's so good, but not boring good.
Yeah, and he has an innate drive, which is very similar to Naksu. Naksu obviously has an inner drive to achieve her goals, and I think she recognizes that in Jang-uk. And I mentioned that later about their romance is I liked that I always love a romance that starts out with almost begrudging respect. That is actually one of my favorite romance beginnings.
Yeah, I like that you say that he's good but not boring good, Leah, because I think it is that drive that makes him such a layered character. He's not just this, goody two shoes and, give me my powers because I want to do good in the world, type of thing. He has goodness in his heart, but he also has ambition to be the best version of himself that he can be. And he knows that includes accessing his powers and learning how to use them.
So Naksu or Muduk, they're the same person in different bodies. Well, not really.
They're not.
And actually,
they're not.
Well, we can talk. I mean, okay, I'll explain that when I get to my answer. But okay, Naksu or Muduk, played by Jung So-min, is our anti-heroine, a girl who was raised to be an assassin, all the while believing her purpose was to avenge her father who was killed by the Daeho mages. Only later does she learn that she was once again manipulated by Jin Mu, that her father was a soul shifter run wild, and the mages were trying to save her village. So what makes her such a well-written heroine?
So, I feel like I fell for her as Jang-uk fell for her. Her character's arc is this amazing slow burn, right? Their romance is a slow burn, but so is her character's arc, not romantically speaking, but just her. She was so sure of who she was because of who she was, raised to be, this assassin. So she was sure that she would choose vengeance over love, but she didn't. And despite how the drama ended, or how this part ended, Muduk did not choose to do what she did. She had agency and she chose love, but then she was manipulated again. But it was her love that she had for Jang-uk, for Sol-yul, for Go-wan, for Dong-gu, for Pak Jin, maidservant Kim, and everyone who showed her that she could not only love, but be loved in return. That was her, I loved that arc for her. And that is why I loved her so much, that even after all of the destruction that she causes at the end at sort of Jinmu's hand, that I still think that despite the tragic ending, that love won when she went and jumped into the lake. Because she could have wasted everybody, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it was that love that everybody had given her that kind of, even though at the end there, it's a little bit ambiguous, she's not sure who she is, why she's there, kind of thing. before she jumps into the lake. She just knows that she needs to like end it right there. And so, yeah, that's why I really loved her, because even being her soul being manipulated there at the end, I still feel like she had agency in her final moment. And that to me made her such a strong character. And I really loved that, even though it was tragic as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, so there are obviously huge found family elements in this drama. Like, if that's your thing, this drama has it in spades for, I think, even Jang-uk. Because I think he's almost like resistant to his found family in a way. And I think he has to learn to like value his friends and the people who love him. And then Naksu obviously is completely alone and has to, learn what love is basically. But you know what this reminded me of? Naksu's journey. And I think this is why I loved her so much. It reminded me of Mr. Queen when Jang.
I love that you keep bringing up Mr. Queen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, so when, Bong Hwan was in the queen's body. And it was just at the very beginning, it was the queen's body with Bong Hwan in it. Like, that's it. But then as the drama went on, the queen kind of came back into him, and those personalities like meshed for a little bit. Like, that's how I felt, like Naksu's journey was. And they acknowledge, I think that's what I love so much about too. They acknowledge that in dialogue, that she was like, I'm not really Naksu anymore. Like, and I can't go back to being Naksu. Right. I mean, when she was manipulated by Jinmu, that's different. But I think that like, that's sort of what happened. I think like the Naksu soul was in the Mudaki's body. And that's the way it was in the beginning. Like, definitely Naksu. And then as the drama went on, it like melded into almost like a brand new like third person, which was like,
right. She was somebody else entirely. Yeah. She wasn't Naksu. She wasn't Mudak. She wasn't Booyoung.
No,
you know, like she wasn't. She was her own
right.
New person.
And I love that. You know, they didn't give her this like static. Oh my God. I mean, they could have given her some sort of like they did kind of give her like a moral dilemma, which she did choose Jang-uk, like when they had that like secret room moment, where she killed, she killed the soul shifter and then didn't leave. Like, she was like, make your promise to me. I'm going to stay with you. And I think that's, I mean, I think you love her from the beginning because you understand where she's coming from. So I guess I would say you're rooting for her, but I think as the drama goes on, that's when you really start to fall in love with her.
So first I'll say I have a total crush on Naksu.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, big time. So it's like rare I like step out of my like little cishet bubble that I live in, but like, you know, I was in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Way in. And what I like about her is that also, I think what's interesting in how she's written is, you know, I really appreciate when a woman is written well. And this woman is written so well that she not only is like a, you know, able to have, you know, like, and we're going to get to this a little bit later, like, you know, multiple men interested in her as a romantic hero. She almost represents different sides of herself, which is what they're connecting to. And they're all part of her. And she's absolutely manipulating that. She's not like, oh, I'm only going to show you this side of me, or I'm only going to show you this side of me. Really, like, she's pretty much herself, but they're all connecting to different parts of who she is, which means that she's so richly layered that she becomes like just a fascinating heroine in her own right. She's not there to serve the man. If anything, the man's there to serve her.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like this was her drama.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he's actually the main character.
I agree. It starts with her.
It does.
And, okay, just to go back, that's why I didn't know who the male lead was, okay? Because I thought she was the main character, and we were going to get the...
She is. She's the main character.
Yeah. So there you go. I'm right. You're wrong.
No, Jang-uk is still obviously the main hero, but...
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, we have two very rich leads who have a lot of nuance to them, but she is more multifaceted and she is more complex.
Yes, right.
He is a delight, but she just has more going on internally.
Mm-hmm. So this truly is a stellar ensemble, and we would be here for days if we talked about how rich and layered almost every character's story was. So for the sake of time, pick one character other than Jang-uk or Muduk and explain why you love them.
So I'm going to go with Go-won, the Crown Prince. I loved him. And, you know, what I really liked is having been like, you know, a few episodes ahead of you both when you were watching and me popping into, you know, our chat and talking about how much I love the prince. And I can't wait till you like get to see more of him and see what you think of him. He could have been very one note and he wasn't. Like he was a very prideful guy, right? But he was governed by more than just that. Like I thought he was governed more by honor than he was by power. And but he just, he had layers and he had, you know, moments of doubt as far as, you know, because Jinmu is his master and like, do I trust this guy still? You know, he's the one who raised me, basically. He taught me to be a mage. Yeah, I don't know. I loved him. And some of the funniest moments for me in both part 1 and part 2, like I'm dying to talk about part 2, involve Go-won. And I wasn't expecting that because, you know, there's a scene early on where I thought, oh my God, he's going to be the rival until the bitter end. Like he's going to, you know, want to kill Jang-uk. And at some points he does want to, but I don't know. It's a lot. And there's so much more to talk about with him in part 2. And I just can't get to it.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about So-yul, which kind of might be a surprise because he's a little bit of like a cinnamon roll. And so like, what was it about him that made such an impression on me? And I liked him throughout the whole drama. I never thought seriously he was like vying for Nok-soo's affection. Like, you know, Jang-uk had that unlock from the beginning. But I felt like So-yul had the first love, which I guess I'm a little bit of a sucker for first love. But he also didn't have closure. And so at the end of the drama, I think we were like, it was in the final 3. Look, I watched the last 3 in like a fever dream. So yeah. So I felt like to me, it was such, because look, love, there's so many types of love and not every love that's real and true and pure and special lasts forever. And I felt like this drama honored it in a way that I don't think I've seen it equaled in terms of a second male lead, except for possibly, for me personally, Mr. Sunshine, where I felt like there were, you know, especially Hee-sung's character, just being able to be like, it's enough that I loved you and I'm going to like, let this go.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But So-yul had like a longer history and a richer connection from like their past. And when they stood there together, and they got to have their like moment where she acknowledged that she had loved him too, because I think that was important. Because the other thing too, that like in a romance, I don't always like, I've had fights about this with editors before where they're like, we just want like the couple to be the only people that they've ever had feelings for. And I'm like, but life just doesn't work that way.
No.
And it's so much more interesting when like you've truly like, I don't like doing the conceit in a book where like your ex has to be evil or everyone has to be shitty except for the hero, because that just makes the heroes and heroines like feel like they don't have to do much to be awesome. Whereas in this case, So-yul is like the whole package and it's not going to be her forever. And so the fact that they could stand there together, hold hands, like be with each other and kind of just say, let's have a moment to like really honor what we had and let's let it go. And, you know, we're going to move forward still with love for each other, but we're not in love.
You know, and I think I kind of just thought about this now when you were saying it. I love that they didn't make it a competition between So-yul and Jang-uk because they never really did. They never really made it this like a woman coming between them. I think that would have like cheapened the entire drama.
It wasn't a woman coming between them, and it also wasn't them, like Leah said, it wasn't them both vying for her
because I don't even know if
attention.
So-yul ever actually, I don't know if he ever actually wanted that. I don't know if he ever actually...
Well, here's why. And like, I think I can, let me just speak to this, is that this goes along with what I said about Nok-soo being multifaceted and having so many layers. So-yul was in love with one of those layers.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
And so the whole Nok-soo, you know, Muduk that she has become he recognized that wasn't for him, and he knew that was like now like Jung-uk's time.
Yep.
He loved a very specific iteration of Naksu.
Yeah, and she wasn't that person anymore.
Right. Was not. She was still in there, but she was all these other things too.
Yes. Oh God, this makes me like it even more.
I know, seriously.
I'm just going to say real quick. It's maidservant Kim. I'm sorry. I freaking love that woman. And my favorite part is, I think we're going to talk about it later, but she had a romance with Park Jin. I love that they gave her a romance. I love that they didn't make this maidservant some like frumpy lady. They made her beautiful and warm and older, and she was so sweet, and she loved Jung-uk so much. I mean, she raised him when his father abandoned.
And we're saying older, she's like in our demographic.
Well, I know, but our demographic they treat pretty crappy. So
they really do. They really do.
Yeah.
So I she raised him when his like mother died and his father abandoned him. Like, I mean, I think like we have to acknowledge the fact that the reason Jung-uk kind of had maintained like goodness and scrappiness in him was probably because of maidservant Kim. And how she chose to like mother him, basically. And I just felt like she was a big heart of the show. And I really felt like if she wasn't there, it would have been different. And that's why I loved her so much. And I want to try her little honey biscuits, her honey cakes. Like I want to find a recipe.
Yeah, those look really good. I want to find
a recipe and make them. Like I'm
those like little flower shaped cookies.
I want to find them.
Those looked really good.
And make them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like her little, oh my God, that sweet romance she had with Ichol. I mean, the whole thing. I just loved her.
Oh my gosh.
He wore the pink scarf and he was so mad when Ho Yam got like sauce on it. And what made me laugh too is he got like sauce on it, which is like liquid. And he like freaks out. I was like, can't you just do like your magic, your like mage stuff
right.
and like take the liquid out? Like calm down, buddy.
All right. We know that Jung-uk is her one true love, but Soyul loved her in his own way, and Go-won had a crush on her as well. Did you ever at any point ship her with somebody other than Jung-uk?
Well, again, as we all know, I had no idea who the main couple was.
Jesus, Megan.
For how long?
I mean, I figured it out pretty quick, but
17 episodes.
She's like, I did not see that coming.
That's not true. The fish-eyed kiss, I was like, what?
I don't know.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I thought Naksu was getting with Master Lee. Like, what? Like, really?
So, at first I thought, like, they just had, like, good camaraderie, but I wasn't, like, feeling...
Oh, my God! Jesus Christ!
I wasn't feeling the chemistry. But then when they went to like the camp together, when basically he was like kicked out of Songrim and they went to the camp together, that's when I was like, oh, like I'm really okay. Like I'm starting to like,
it might be. Well, no,
I knew it was him. No, I knew it was him before that. I just wasn't feeling the chemistry between them yet. And so like I said before, it was like this slow burn romance that started out with this like begrudging respect because I think they like each recognized something in each other that they also had inside themselves. And I also really understood like Mudok's like reluctance towards any affection for Jung-uk, because she didn't really remember like much of love. She had like sworn it off after the death of her father. And then after learning her childhood friend, Soyul was the son of her enemy. And I guess what I also loved about their romance was that she didn't kind of like turn into this like blushing bride. Like she was still very much herself within this romance. Like their banter was still like antagonistic. Like I loved their banter with each other. Like episode 20, they're like putting makeup on each other, and the way she talks to him is just so funny. And to me, like, yeah, it was a romance that was like a soulmate bond. Like they got each other.
Yeah, they got each other. I am going to say, and this isn't the question, but I'm going to answer my own question. Ahead. I did hit a point, so I'm going to give because this is a love fest, I am going to give some of the quibbles I had.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think some of the quibbles I had here, by the end I was happy, but I did hit a point yesterday at around episode 17 where I was like, look, I feel like we've meandered the fuck around. And I am ready to be like, look, there better be a beating heart at the front of this, because right now they are chilled out lovers. Like, It's too chill for me. And the stakes obviously up by the end, and I think it connected in, but I hit a point in the midpoint where I felt like we were layering in so much other like plot points and like the intrigue and, you know, the magic that, you know, we had the fisheye kiss, which look, fisheye kisses are never it for me. I like was lukewarm on this one. I was like, look, I think we could have done better with the kiss, the first kiss. But then after that, you know, I do like that their relationship was still like semi-chill, but it stayed chill like for a long time where I was like, come on, like I need to see some fucking passion here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, big. And so I do think by the end I was happy, but I thought the pacing was curious because also like a lot of like that like relational fun and games. I mean, we did have some of it at the usual plot points we would see in a drama, but we saved a lot of it for the end as to do like a bait and switch, to be like, let's really just have you at the end be like, it's all good, it's all worked out, and you know it's not.
Yeah.
But like I feel like we saved some of that pacing for the very end, but honestly, it worked. So what am I going to say? Like, I think it worked fine. Mm-hmm. It was like an unusual choice to kind of like work the beats the way they did it. And
I think, I was gonna say, I think it will tie in well with part 2. I mean, I'm not going to say much about it, but like it's an ongoing story and it's an ongoing arc. And so I think really we were just getting to the fun and games. And then now we're at Black moment number 1.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you know, which makes sense. You're looking at this as like part 1 and 2 being one holistic drama.
It is.
And so, yes, under that, guys, I can see that having not even seen part 2, just because it was weird where beats were starting to come by the end and end on what is a textbook definition
of a cliffhanger.
So again, Megan's gonna tell people the drama being like, look, I had no idea who was getting another win, and it ended very satisfactorily for me.
Like, I can chill.
Yeah, like I feel very much like done and done.
I actually was like, I could chill for a little bit. I actually did feel that way.
I was like, fuck, like I need to watch the rest right now.
No, I was like, I need a break. I'm gonna let them chill out. Jungkook's got to fan the flames from his robes, and Naksu's got to dry out. Like, I'm going to let them do that.
Get the stone off her face.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about some secondary romances, because we had a lot, you know, going on in here. So what was your favorite of the secondary romances? So I wrote this question, and I wrote it because I wanted to answer it. So I guess I'll just answer it.
Yeah, do it.
Because it gave me some major vibes of other characters. So Pak Jin and maidservant Kim were my favorite, all of our favorites, right? Mm-hmm. To me, they were Beatrice and Benedict from Much Ado About Nothing, which is my favorite Shakespeare, and specifically the Kenneth Branagh version with Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson as Beatrice and Benedict. And it's an enemies to lovers story. Pak Jin and Kim Do-ju aren't quite enemies per se, but they are full of like snark and bickering as they try to untangle their feelings for each other, because originally they were each in love with Jungkook's parents. She was in love with his father and he was in love with his mother. And so they both had like unrequited first loves, right? And they teased.
Yeah, and I love that.
And they teased the crap out of each other of all the things that they did for their unrequited love.
Right.
But you can really see the feelings sort of bubbling between them. And I appreciated that we got a full romance story with older characters to balance out my dirty Ajumma love for Jungkook, because...
My quibble?
Yeah.
I'm going to come with a quibble here. They didn't kiss.
It's not over.
I know, but come on. Like, that was a magical moment that was worth a kiss in Act 1 because what I loved was when they finally...
the seeds.
You know, I loved when they're like outside and it's a little romantic and they're walking together and she's like, you know, I don't want a big house. I don't want all that fancy.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And she's like, I just want a snug little cottage with my honey. And he's like, yeah. Totally get it. I'm going to totally buy that for you and Master E to have together. And she's like, what?
She's like, you are so dumb.
You are the fucking dumbest walk I have ever seen.
You himbo.
And then just to see Park Jin. I mean, is it slapsticky? Yes. did I like it? Yes. Of him just like banging his head like around like any door frame he could see for like the next episode and a half, where he's like, stupid. Yeah. And then he comes back though. And when he comes back and he's basically like, look, why men?
I'm a seed. I'm a seed that needs to be.
Yeah. When he opens up his hands and the seed is in there,
all the seeds. God. And so, you know, I went from like, why men to like, yes, Park Jin. And then like, take your time with me. I'm a little slow. And she's like, yes. I'm like, look, I want to see the late 40s, early 50s, tongue down the pie hole.
Yeah.
Their story is not done.
Good. But I really feel like I was like, you're not too old to go all in and eat each other's faces.
No.
God, he's hot too. Oh, he's so hot.
He is.
He has short hair in part 2.
Better. Much better.
I do love when he's like, I'm L'Oreal and I'm worthing with it, you know, his hair.
Oh my God, his hair. And he would like comb it. Oh, I loved him. I loved him so much. And I liked that he was like so smart and so powerful and then just so freaking dumb.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
That gets me every time.
Okay, so villains are always the heroes of their own stories, right? So let's talk Jinmu, fabulously portrayed by Jo Jae-yoon. Jinmu is many things. An illegitimate child of Jinyowan, pupil of the former Gwonju Jang Gang, who is also Jang-uk's father, sort of, practitioner of outlawed sorcery, the Alchemy of Souls, creator of the assassin Naksu, and now, as the current assistant Gwonju, he is the master manipulator of the royal family. He reminds me very much of Kim Byung-chul as Park Jung-hun, our purple-tongued villain from Goblin, which is to say that this character archetype, the would-be but can't-be king who craves power however he can get it, is common in many stories involving royals. So, how does Jinmu stack up against the rest? Is he a villain to be reckoned with, or is he, you know, kind of like this cliche archetype that I just talked about?
Okay, so first of all, he has the creepiest smile. Creepy. Every time he smiled, I was like, ugh, I would get chills. So good. And he's just so conniving and like sniveling. But I mean, I think he's a great villain. But he's also like a part of a cast of villains.
Yes.
So I would say like, I think the true villain in this drama isn't quite like tangible as one person, but Jinmu does a great job being like a representative of that greed, power, ice stone. I honestly feel like this is very similar to Lord of the Rings, where like the real villain isn't like Sauron. It's like what the ring does to people.
And that continues into part 2, and that's a really good way to talk about it.
And like, you know, like Sauron's just like a representative of like what the ring can do in a way. And so I felt like that's the way this drama was. Like Jinmu is just representative of like how you can be if you like covet the power of the ice stone.
So for me, I don't know. I mean, he was slimy to me the whole time, which was the intent.
Yes.
But I did find him like a little bit one note for a lot of it, where I was just like, I wanted to see more of a tragic. I really like when villains have a lot of damage. Like, you know, I'm going to use my goblin card here and call in my lawless lawyer, Anoju. Like, I want really, really good reasons why the villain is villaining so that I can still be against them, but kind of be like, yeah, like I get like why you're such a baddie. And in this case, like, I feel like, same. You know, I kind of got it. Like power is rad, but like he became, and that's where like towards the middle when I was like, oh my God, if I don't get some romance here and I'm just dealing with this jabroni.
Jabroni. I totally get it.
I'm like, Jinmu, like, look, I need a little more depth here.
Yeah.
I actually completely
he's just
agree
a baddie.
with you.
Like you don't sympathize with him as a baddie like you do sympathize with Anoju, right?
Yeah.
Like
I even sympathize with like the shaman more. I thought she was shitty,
way more interesting, horrific villain.
Yeah. She was great.
Jinmu, I was just kind of like, oh my God, like with like your like very tweezed little goatee, like I was just like, enough already, enough. If I see you again, I'm gonna punch you in the fucking smug face.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt with I was over Jinmu by the end. I liked that we saw him good a bit though. Like I liked when we saw him back before he was like big baddie.
Yes.
But I wanted to see more of like that transition to the dark side because I just feel like that's what makes a villain compelling.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Like that is the one. I think he's good at being bad, like really good at being bad, but we don't get to see very much of the why, especially since like he has a sister like who is like the priestess of Jinyoan. Yeah. Like he has a connection to great power, yet still wants more. Why?
Yeah.
Right.
Like so like what inferiority or what unsafety? Like why are you the hero of your own story?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. He's definitely not my favorite villain. I did like the shaman. She was, I didn't like her. I hated her, but she was a great villain.
Yes. That was a good twist. I like that.
Like, yeah, the fact that she's like trying to get recognition for like her entire family who has been essentially outcasted.
Okay. I didn't put this in the question, but since you're bringing it up, how does Jin Ho-kyung, the priestess of Jinyoan, how does she not know that her husband is from the Choi family?
I know. I was wondering that too. He must have just lied about his last name. But I'm like, how did you get to
he's
be
like from like
that?
The other like a town that's walking distance away.
Well, and how do you get to marry someone that powerful?
Right.
I admit, I thought he was also a soul shifter. And then all of a sudden she's like, is this true? And he's like, because I was like, oh, that's not. Yeah, I was like, oh, well, then he's not really Cho Yun's dad. And then no, he's Cho Yun's dad. I mean, I would say that was like one of the like leaps that we had to make. But you know what? I don't care.
I know. I still don't care. I'm asking the question, but I don't care. It doesn't make me love the drama any less.
Just, absolutely my same question. I was just like, there's
like, that's your husband. Like, you don't know that he's like from a shaman family?
That he grew up in this like village that they like practice like sorcery. I know, it's crazy. Like, how did he even get within 10 feet of you? I think that was like my biggest
right. Like, how do he ask you out?
She's like, I fell in love with your smile. I'm like,
on a date.
Well, I was like, why was he in your house? How'd he get in there? Yeah.
Speaking of Jang Gang being Jong-uk's father, sort of. So here is the story of Jong-uk's birth and how the Alchemy of Souls set forth a series of unfortunate events for our hero. Jang Gang was Gwonju to the former king, but the king had no heirs. And when he found himself knocking on death's door, he ordered his Gwonju to swap souls. He says he just wants to like chill in a healthy body. He doesn't really give his whole plan away.
No, he doesn't. As soon as they swap souls, he does.
They swap souls. He's like, what I'm gonna do is go fuck your hot wife.
It's so crazy.
And he does. So according to the drama, the child born of this union is the king's son. It's not Jang Gang's. And because Jang Gang knows that revealing how his son came to be would put him in danger for doing that Alchemy of the Souls good, he closes Jong-uk's gate of energy and forbids him to train as a mage. So he's not like the other boys. Then, just stir the pot and see where this discussion takes us. Riddle me this, Batman. If your body, which includes your DNA, knocks boots with another body while it is inhabited by a soul other than your own, does the offspring produced by said boot knocking belong to you or the soul who had control of your body? That is a fucking paternity lawsuit right there.
Can you imagine that thing going to court? Be like, okay, here's the thing.
This was a great question because I wrestled with this exact question for the
whole drama.
Yeah,
I feel like the whole drama. I'm like, but really, but it's because of the sorcery and because of all the magic and the whole King Star, like him being born under the King Star, that like everybody's like, yes, he is the son of the king, kind of thing. But which body made the baby?
Yeah, you both go for it, and then I'll weigh in.
Like, the sperm wouldn't change.
Does sperm have a soul?
I would go with no. No. We do all
according to this drama, apparently.
Right.
Yeah. So the sperm would be the owner of the body. So, but I feel like the baby would also have like emotional traits of the soul.
Do you think when your dad came to your mom, his emotional soul is embedded in you?
Kinda. I actually do.
I mean, that is the question. Do we inherit parts of our parents' soul?
No.
Like that's what this is asking.
I mean, I think I inherit like personality traits.
But that's not like because there's like a miasma of soul.
That's
like,
true.
Around the lucky sperm as it's like going in.
I guess I'm thinking of more nurture.
Yeah, and look, nature. I mean, people don't, come at me. You can let me know if you think you've got like a soul backpack on your lucky sperm. Let me know.
A soul backpack.
I think that they were splitting some fine fucking hairs here, and I think toxic masculinity really caused some deep harm because he's like, I wasn't in my right mind when I did my like pump and dump, so therefore, yeah. I mean, I want a biological diagram of how this makes him not his son.
I mean, I don't. For some reason, though, when the drama did it, I was like, "Yeah, that's not his son. It's not Jang Gang's son." How did I?
I have zero quibble with it, right? But like,
how did the drama gaslight me?
Well, the thing is, too, is that the king was just like, "Hell yeah, that's my son." Like,
I know, like that's
right.
Like that's the sort of bonkers part of it is that the king was like, "I know how I'm going to get an heir."
Also, how lucky was it that was the week Do Hua was ovulating?
Here's the other clue I have is that we don't really ever see her having like any power agency. She just seems like her husband coming in. And she just,
and she just lies there. She's like thinking of England.
Yeah, like open me up. I'm a present to unpack. And there was no like, ooh, I like the new kingly moves you've got here. Like you really put your back.
Where'd you learn that?
We don't get any of that.
You know what? Your sperm soul feels different.
I can't.
As I'm getting the wet rag and wiping myself clean, I'm noticing the essence feels royal.
Ow, stop.
There's like a glow between my legs.
But here's the thing. This hits me in the same delight center in my brain that Renesmee hits me from Twilight.
Oh my God.
Where there's
so Renesmee.
It's so ridiculous that I like am like, yes, I like it. You've hit peak silly that I actually enjoy what's happening.
And if for some reason you have not read or seen the Twilight series, Renesmee.
I have not.
Oh, what? Give me
You're fired. You are fired.
I have not read Twilight.
You are fired from this. So she doesn't know who Renesmee is.
Oh my God. I'm disgusted.
Megan. Jacob the werewolf is not in love with Bella Swan.
I know
he's in love with.
You don't know. Spoiler.
He is in love with her unfertilized egg.
That is his soulmate.
I did know about that. I heard about it.
Like he is in love with her unborn child before the egg is even fertilized. Yeah. And he thinks he's in love with her, but no, he is imprinted on her egg.
Because the egg is everlasting, the sperm is regenerated often in Edward's vampire balls somehow, and so he's not imprinted somehow on Edward. He's only imprinted on the egg half of his future wife.
You're not going to get me to read it.
Well, how did I read 50 Shades of Grey? Right there, because that is the single best moment in English literature.
It's the crackiest crack.
I know. I mean, I read 50 Shades of Grey, which is Twilight fanfic.
You don't know. You know nothing about Twilight.
I know.
The baby is born after Edward eats the baby out of her womb.
He C-sections her with his mouth.
Pulls the baby out. Jacob comes in like, what the fuck? You're killing the love of my life. God damn, that baby.
But he's like, you know what? I will wait.
Yeah, I love her.
Until she's like 7, but looks like she's 18.
I love her as all special things must be loved. In a non-creepy sexual way, I'm going to now take this infant child and run out the door with it and raise it to be my mate.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying it is a slow clap to Stephanie Meyers for doing that. And a lesser clap, but still a hearty clap to the Hong sisters for, having these sperm have a soul backpack.
And for us to just buy it. Like I was like, oh my God, he is not Jang Gang's son. Like, absolutely not. Like, I totally just,
oh my God, the
Why
whole
didn't
drama,
I think about this?
the whole drama, I'm like, okay, but Jang Gang's body had sex.
Yeah, I was like, Jang Gang, your toxic masculinity has fucked up everything. Just accept that your brain was turned off and your dick was hard.
Yeah, actually, who's the real villain? Jang Gang.
Really, Jang Gang was the real villain here. But can I just say, because I don't know if there's another time to say it, this is a beautiful man.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, he is super hot.
And I needed a lot. I was let down because like the slow walk he had of like through multiple episodes in his like Obi-Wan Kenobi raggedly clothes. I was like, oh, Daddy's coming home. I am ready to see whatever he's got to cook up for me. And instead he showed up and was like, I'm just going to barbecue myself right here.
Right. So I actually messaged, you know, when he like trails Jong-uk in like the shaman village, and he's just dressed in like all these rags. All these rags. His like hair's a mess. He reminded me of Grisabella in Cats, the musical. And that's all I could think about. I like any minute I thought he was going to be like, touch me. It's so easy to leave me. It's going to like break out in memory. And then he's so dramatic because he's got that like bandage on his hand and Jong-uk's like, are you injured? And Jang Gang's like, I am injured down to my soul. And I was like, okay, old man, like you brought this upon yourself. Like no one cares. Like he's the most, I mean, you know, you want to know who's the drama?
Jang
Gang. Jang Gang is the drama.
He's the anti-hero. Hi. You're the problem, Jang Gang.
You're the problem, Jang Gang. You and the fact that you just could never reconcile that. And I mean, even the king, I was like, way to have a watertight fucking plan. He's like, I mean, like, I was like, what you wanted to do was just remember what it was like to be inside a woman, a beautiful woman.
Because literally, it's like you said, pump and dump and die. Like,
pump and dump and die.
And
he doesn't even get to like the satisfaction of seeing his heir born.
But like the problem is that the satisfaction of the heir born is Jang Gang's child, genetically speaking.
Right. And nobody ever knows except for, you know, like the few close people who've been keeping this secret. So I don't even know what the point is. I know. But you know what? I don't care. And we're going to move on because this question is never going to get answered. So
when he puts him on the throne at some point and they're like, let's do a DNA test. And we realize 0% king blood.
The ashes of Jang Gang are going to feel real stupid.
Okay, quick question. Quick Jang Gang question, because apparently this is going to be like a 2-hour episode.
Yeah.
So he petrifies at the end because he's a soul shifter, but he's back in his own body. Does that not save you? Like, when you shift your that's never really explained. Like, he's shifted souls with the king, but then shifted back to his body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually don't understand I'll be honest, I don't understand the rules of, like, running wild.
Right. That one threw me for a loop when he began, like, he shifted back in and then was still effed.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess once you shift, you're a soul shifter, even if you shift back to your own body. Always a shifter. Okay, but how did he last? How did he last 20 years?
20 years
without running wild.
Was he taking energy from people?
This is the coincidences.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. I'm taking that back. Don't come at me with plot holes. I don't care.
It's just a coincidence. He came all this way, walked all these miles in his raggedy rags
to keep the ice stone from destroying the world.
Plotting. I was like, hurry up! Like, why are we watching this and not watching Jang-uk like make out with Noksu? We're watching this, and then he shows up and is like a 5-minute.
He barely does anything.
5 minutes of like, let me tell you some truth bombs, and then ends himself.
Yeah.
But he was a beautiful man. He
was.
Okay. So we love the writing in this drama. We don't care about plot holes. And we love how effortlessly, you know, K-drama in general can blend, you know, drama and comedy. And I think that's one thing that this drama does so well. Like, we've got gut-wrenching emotional scenes and then, you know, turn to a laugh out loud comedic relief. So what is one comedy scene that really hit you in the funny bone?
so for me, it was the scene where Mooduk is trying to save Jang-uk from the crown prince basically killing him. So she throws a chamber pot. She throws chamber pot water at the crown prince. That's like her grand plan because she doesn't have any powers. And then in order to apologize, she offers to drink it. She's like, it's okay, I can do it. And Jang-uk is like, oh my god, no, like, I'll do it. Meanwhile, they're both gagging. They're like, they keep going, okay, I'll drink it. And then maid servant Kim is like, oh no, I'll do it too. And she gets close to the changer pot. And she's like, like, so they're all kneeling and gagging and passing the chamber pot water back and forth. It's like sloshing all over the place. And at that point, the crown prince is like, gross. Like, like, I think I love that about him. He's like, stop. He's like, I don't want to watch any of you drink this. Can you just stop? And the thing is, like, the previous scene was like incredibly tense. I mean, you thought someone was going to get very hurt, you know? And so I think it's just such a gift to be able to like write a scene where it's like high tension and then just immediately kind of like cut into it with this really good humor. And look, I don't always love toilet humor, but this was great toilet humor.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was chamber pot humor.
I love that, and it's where she gets the nickname Filthy Mooduk. Yeah. And I love that because it sparks their friendship. And one of my favorite funny scenes is with Go On as well, and it's the Jade Stones.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I forgot to write it down.
It's so funny.
Okay, so there are these twin Jade Stones, a red one and a blue one, and initially, Jang-uk had given one, he kept one, he gave one to Mooduk, and he didn't really know the power of the Jade Stones when he did this. And at one point, there is a bet that is made, and because of this bet, Go On gets Mooduk's Jade Stone. He also does not understand the power of the Jade Stone. And basically what the Jade Stone does is if each stone is held by, two different people who've got powerful souls, and love in their heart, one stone will call out to the other. And one night, the stones call out to each other, and Jang-uk and Go On are both walking from their respective homes, and they're coming across the bridge, and it's this like total romantic music because they think they are both being somehow led towards their true love. And then they see that it's each other, and it's like record scratch, and it is the funniest thing. And I was talking to Megan about it when she finally got to it, and I'm like, I think it's hilarious, and I don't think it's like a gay panic scene by any means, just because it's two men. I think it is these two men who hate each other or think they hate each other, and they're like, what the hell? Like, why do you have the stone? Like, why do you have the stone?
Like, why is it you? Like, I agree. I didn't feel gay panic. I felt like they don't like each other at all.
Yet their hearts are like, calling to each other through these stones.
He's like, my heart's, why is my heart beating?
It was so funny.
So that was my funny moment. So I'm just going to use my time to just circle back one last time for the last question because I realized I haven't finished my point.
Okay.
So my point that I wanted to finish about like the sexual affair is I just need to say this. I feel like Jung-uk's mother got treated so dirty for everyone saying she had an affair.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, she had an affair. He's illegitimate. She had an affair. She just fucked her husband.
Yeah.
And I just need to say again, like, 100%, did you have an affair? If Neil came home, Megan, crawled into bed, was like his business time, and you were like, I'm a little sleepy, but I'll give it up. I'm going for it. This was okay. You had some new moves. That was interesting. And the next morning he wakes up and was like, what happened? I had my soul abducted and someone else Rogered you.
Yeah. No, I didn't do anything.
But I don't think the rumors went around that she cheated because they knew that she slept with her husband with the king's soul in his body. I think that the rumors went around that she cheated because he took off. Like this baby was born, he took off.
So again, reason 3040th, and I'm sorry this isn't funny, that Jang Gang sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he took his wife's honor with him too.
His dead wife's honor.
His dead wife's honor, so she couldn't even defend herself. What a dick.
He is such a dick.
Hot dick.
You're the worst, Jang Gang.
Hot dick. I mean, He clearly had hot dick because the king's like, I want to use that hot dick. So the Jade Stone was going to be mine. And then on a more levity, I mean, I don't have like a big ha 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 moment. It was just every time the Crown Prince cocked his head and arched an eyebrow.
The best.
Oh, I know one that we forgot. And I think I threw it in at the end in case nobody brought it up. I just remembered. The servant test.
Oh my God, you're right. That was one of my favorite parts of, I was screaming laughing when the Crown Prince, Soyeol, and Donggu were like trying to figure out the servant test results to get her into Songrim. And they're like these little, like, they just felt like little boys, like, collaborating on these, like, servant
and cheating
questions.
for her,
and the Crown Prince dropping off her test. The entire thing was hysterical. So funny. I'm sorry, I totally, like, interrupted you, but
that's okay. I wanted that to get shared.
I messaged you about it. That's when I was like, I messaged you and you're like, I know, I'm like, it's so great.
Okay. So Kim Shin in Goblin taught us about sad love, the impossible love that makes the viewer think that while these two people might be destined for each other, there is no way that they could find a happily ever after. How do our writers, Hong Jung-eun and Hong Mi-ran, manage to keep the tension high and keep us hoping for an HEA, yet believing we might not get one?
So I think I said before, these 20 episodes were long and they were meaty. I mean, there's a ton of plot. And it was like kind of exhausting at times, but I never really felt like bored or frustrated. And I think that's because they constantly escalated the tension while also giving us little victories. So it kind of felt like chess. Like some characters would make their moves and other characters would like figure it out. And everyone would sort of have to like recalibrate their plan. And we'd see the bad guys get ahead, but the good guys would also gain something. Like when Jang-uk caught the golden fish and like achieved Hansu. I think it was Hansu. You know, it was like these little steps, like forward steps, backward steps, but all like going up. And it was great. It was also like, you know how they say like when you write, like every scene should have a conflict and like kind of a resolution. And I feel like this drama did. I mean, there were really no wasted scenes. Sometimes there would be like little humorous scenes, but I still felt like they overall were like part of the greater story. And even those little...
Yeah, they weren't gratuitous by any means.
Yeah.
I think for me, it does have a little bit of a saggy middle. So I feel like the drama got a little bloated at some times. And I'm not saying that badly because here's why. At one point I thought, look, we just might be starting to like meander too much. But in the final 3 episodes, I feel like most threads got retied in really good ways. And the ones that haven't, I feel pretty confident that we're going to get to. And so that's where I think the Hong sisters like impressed me a lot, was because they set a pretty ambitious, sweeping drama plot forward. There is a lot of external conflict. There's a lot of internal conflict through multiple characters. And yeah, like, you know, sometimes we have seen that like sometimes the writing just kind of, you know, you have this great concept and like the plot kind of just gets away with you and it takes control. We saw that with Tale of the Nine-Tailed, which look, we all still really enjoy. But then eventually it felt like the plot was like wagging the tail and the writers were hanging on. Yeah. In this case, I felt like at one point I'm like, look, are we just kind of losing, like, have they lost the thread here? And I would say that no, they didn't. Like right when I started to get nervous in like 16, 17 of like, I don't know if we're going to just like start to really go into something where we're just filling time and just having more intrigue and more relics and more stuff. I was like, we're good. Like we are all up with that. We need to get back to internal conflict.
Right.
That was the exact moment that the plot went back into internal conflict.
I think you're right.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the romance is concerned, what really kept me on my toes was this fact that even once they admitted that they loved each other, you knew that she was a soul shifter and that eventually she was going to run wild and petrify. So like, how does that, you know, not happen? They need the ice stone for that. So that's like the kind of whole thing is like, if Jungkook can get the ice stone, then he can, you know, protect Mudok and keep her from running wild. If he can, you know, just get that stone. But we know that this stone is like obviously a point of contention and everybody wants it. And we also know that there's a part 2. So the whole time I'm like, I don't know how this is going to end well. I don't know how these people are going to be together. And it ends pretty freaking tragically. And we'll get to that in a minute. But I think that that tension for me was kept up pretty well. That even when it did start to get kind of like a little fluffy and like, you know, Leah, you were saying with like us finally getting to the fun and games and like pretty much the last episode, they kind of put the pedal to the metal again, and we get this like high drama and something that makes it seem like it's going to be impossible for it to end well in part 2, but we'll see. I mean, I know, but you don't. So what was just in general, like one of the things that you think that they did really well with their writing of this drama, the Hong sisters?
Yeah. So for me, it was like the weaving of the characters' motivations and the subplots. I mean, that is so difficult. I'm currently writing a series where my world is honestly a little unwieldy. Like I might be the tiger hanging on to the tail at this point. Like it's a lot, and it's terrifying to remember everything about everyone. And I imagine the Hong sisters had this like massive whiteboard to keep track of everyone and their backstories, and then also the chronology of it all. I mean, to me, this is like a masterclass in like fantasy and like generational writing that blew me away. To have so many characters with like competing and aligning goals, and then those goals shifting so that some were running parallel, then they start to intersect. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my, it was a lot. And I feel like this is what Game of Thrones, the TV show, like wanted to be. I don't mean to keep comparing it to Game of Thrones, because obviously like Alchemy of Souls is much lighter than Game of Thrones, but still, those writers of Game of Thrones like absolutely could not handle the world through like 5 seasons, however long it was. Like that, it was a mess. And I would say like as a writer, like watching Alchemy of Souls made me want to put together a story like this, where like all the conversations matter. There are conflicts and resolutions to every scene. Like the goal, motivations, and conflicts for every character is clear. Like I really feel like I could sit down right now and write that out for you for every character. We don't have time to do that, so I'm not going to. And I think some are still a little murky, and we'll find more in part 2, but the drama didn't give like empty characters. I feel like even the brothel owner, Ju Wol, was like fleshed out. I loved her.
She's great. So I mentioned it earlier when Leah brought up the relationship between Soyul and Mudok. And what really hit me, and it's not just with them, but I think their parting scene expresses it best, is the layered dialogue. And it happens more than once in part 1 and part 2, where characters are having a conversation and it means what it means on the surface, and it means a second thing too. And what I love about this is that even in the translation, because there's always something lost in translation, and even in the English translation, it like blew me away, and the language seemed very poetic to me. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, then in Korean, it must be even more beautiful. And I can't imagine what I'm missing, because I love it so much as it is. So I went and I rewatched the scene where Mudok and Soyul say goodbye, and I transcribed it because I love it so much. And I think it's a great example of this. So it's Mudok talks for most of it, which I didn't realize until I went back and watched it. And it's only like a 2.5 minute scene, but she pretty much is talking the whole time, and he is just acting with his face and his posture.
His eyes. He was very expressive in his eyes.
Okay. So Mudok and Soyul, they're outside, and she walks up to him and she says, "I would like to check if you're healing well, so allow me to feel your breathing 3 times. And she presses her palm and the bird whistle to his chest. And then she says, "Let us say goodbye to each other while these 3 breaths last." And then he puts his hand over hers. And then she says, "I also enjoyed my time with you at Annyeong," which is her big reveal that she knows that he knows that she's Naksu. She has not let on that she knows until now. "Thank you for everything." And then she gives him the whistle. "It looks like your wound is healing well. I know the medicine is bitter, but make sure you take it regularly." And they both look at each other wistfully for like a big pause. And then he finally speaks and he says, I will take it no matter how bitter it may be. This time it will fully heal." And so this is not the only example of these 2-layered conversations that people have, but the writing here combined with the performance killed me. They finally get to be truthful with each other. Naksu gets to admit that she did care for him, and Soyul gets to comfort her and tell her that he will get over the pain of losing her eventually. I mean, come on. Like, that was a beautiful moment. 2 minutes.
I loved beautiful. It was one of my, like I said, I'm glad that you said layered dialogue, because I was like, what? How do I describe that? And that's like the best way. But because I noticed that when I was watching that there were a lot of conversations like that, and I loved it. I would say, though, the one that you just transcribed was probably my favorite of those.
I loved it. So let's talk about that part 1 ending. Mooduk, her soul controlled by Jinmu, goes full Naksu and kills Jin Utak because he is the one who can rat Jinmu out to the royal family as having performed the Alchemy of Souls on the queen. Naksu eventually comes back to herself as Mooduk, but only after she realizes that she has plunged her sword into Jang-uk's chest. And because Jinmu has been controlling her with the divination bells, she will soon run wild, which she does, eventually jumping off a cliff and into Lake Gyeongcheondaeho. After being exposed as having protected the assassin Naksu, Jang-uk does not receive a proper funeral, and instead his remains are burned in a funeral pyre. Except Jang-uk was born under the King's Star, and Jang-uk just saved all of Daeho by absorbing the power of the Ice Stone. So when the funeral pyre is lit, fire surges into the sky, the pyre explodes, and like the fucking phoenix that he is, Jang-uk emerges from the flames. Who lost their shit.
So when Jang-uk pulled a Daenerys and emerged from the flames, I mean, I screamed. I lost my shit. I was writhing on the couch. To me, this rivals episode 11 of The King.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's better than episode 11 of The King.
I will give you that, yes.
I want to watch Jang-uk stride from the flames over and over again. I want someone to edit the scene with the song, like, cool guys don't look at explosions from Saturday Night Live as he's, like, walking away from his, like, own funeral pyre. Like I've said it before on this podcast that I'm, like, a simple person. So just, like, entertain me. And Alchemy of Souls entertained me from the very beginning. But then the drama definitely, for me, outdid itself completely in the last few minutes of episode 20.
So yeah, I watched this, like I said, today, because, you know, I ran this one right down to the wire. But I'm not saying it in that I felt rushed. I mean, I felt rushed, but I don't think it, like, diminished my enjoyment of it. Even though right now I could, like, curl up and just fall asleep.
Soon.
I really liked the final episode of this drama. It was so strong, and I think seeing that it was, like, the clear pivot to go into, like, a second, you know, season or second half makes a lot of sense. I was expecting him to walk out of the fire, to be honest. What I wasn't expecting was for her to gut him like a shrimp on a cocktail floor.
Right.
And we got the foreshadowing earlier, so I should have.
Like, he literally tells her, if you get your powers back, turn your sword on me.
And she did.
I want to be the first one. Yeah. And so I was still like, and then, like, damn it, the foreshadowing. But because, like, that was hard.
And the way he comes out of nowhere and, like, shields her from the arrow.
Yeah.
That had killed her last time.
Yes.
Because that's why she had to shift, was because Pak Jin hit her with that, like, ice arrow thing. And that's why she had to shift, because she was going to die.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. And can I just say one thing? So episode, was it like 18 or 19? Where that's when, like, the queen gets exposed. So they're, like, in the royal, or they're in, like, the hall there. The queen gets exposed, and then her brother stabs himself.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the car in a parking lot. My daughter had hockey practice, so she was, like, in the, like, building, whatever. And I was like, oh, I have work to do. That's what I told her. But I was in my car watching Alchemy of Souls. So I'm in the parking lot alone. It's, like, really windy outside. The wind's, like, blowing against the car. And so I'm watching this. I screamed out loud when he stabbed himself. Screamed, like, in my car. I'm not exaggerating. I was like, I'd clap, and then I clapped my hand over my mouth. Like, if anyone was watching me, they'd be like, what is wrong with her? And I sent Amy this, like, shrieking voicemail. This shrieking voice message, just losing it. I was like, this... And that's the thing, like, I was so entertained. And actually, we didn't mention that episode 20 was basically the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
You're really going Game of Thrones
really
here.
going Game of Thrones.
There's a lot of similarities, but this is better. This is better.
The stone face?
Yeah, this is better. All right, we are so short on time, but I just want to give a quick shout out to Soe, because Soe, our Buyan impersonator, who I loved her, and she's in season 2. We get to see more of her. I loved her, but I'm looking at her. I'm like, why? Why does she look so familiar? Like, you know somebody from everything, right? But I'm like, I couldn't place it. And then I'm looking at her list of dramas that she's been in, and I see that she was in Business Proposal, and I'm like, no, I have no Chingu, and she is. I have no Chingu.
You know, I have no Chingu.
I am 1 minute years old.
Amy messaged me and told me, because I didn't know either. I was like, how do I know her? And again, she like completely, like, different. It was crazy. So let me just say, Soe, that character is a perfect example of why I love this drama so much. Because her motivations were, like, very clear, and you didn't like her at first. She wants to survive. She's had, like, a really rough life, clearly. She's kind of like a swindler and a thief to stay alive. But she got swept away in this, like, evil plot, and she didn't really want anything to do with. I mean, she was, like, kidnapped and almost, like, forced into it. Basically, if she didn't do it, they would have killed her. And, like, but then they give her this, like, sympathetic arc where she's basically in love with Sol-Yul, which who wouldn't be? And that's when I started to, like, kind of, she almost had, like, that Ano-ju thing with me where I was like, well, now, like, I don't want her to die. I want her to be punished a little bit, but, like, oh. Like,
she's got a good arc in part 2.
She's trying her best, you know?
I'm shipping her.
I am too.
With Yul.
So anyway, I just, like, what they did with her character is what they did with a lot of other characters and why I liked it so much.
So is it safe to say that we all love this drama? We talked about it for 2 hours in 6 minutes.
Yes. We've never talked about, well, we've
did like
done
part 2. We did
what?
double deep dives in the beginning.
You know what, though? One thing that Sarah and Grace were talking about, they're like, we loved when they did, like,
they missed our double episodes.
Yeah, because we did 2 episodes on Healer. We did 2 episodes. And I thought to myself, like, we should maybe, this is basically 2 episodes.
We could have split this up. We did not.
Well, but we're going to do part 2. But I feel like we went full writer nerd tonight on Alchemy of Souls because it deserved it.
And even going full writer nerd, we can still say that something was done well, even if there are some strong coincidences.
Yeah, I don't care.
And sperm with soul backpacks.
Mm-hmm. Just imagine them.
I want somebody to draw us fan art. I want to see a sperm with a soul backpack.
I just imagine them that they have, like,
it's like going to be a glowing
like
backpack.
And they're like the kindergartners with, like, the really big backpacks because they're tiny little sperm. You know, the big kindergartners who are, like, off to school and they're
each sperm is out there with their father, and it's, like, so patriarchal too. They're all there with their father's soul. Like, what?
I know. It's crazy. Anyway, this was a long one. Thanks for sticking with us.
I loved it. I love talking about it. I'll talk about it more as long as you don't come at me with any sort of hate, because you're not going to yuck this yum.
Yeah. I don't want to hear it.
You're entitled to your opinion, but do not try to convince me. If you didn't love this drama, that is okay. I did, and
totally.
You will never change my mind.
And don't try. Just don't try.
Don't try. Just be like, I'm glad you loved it, guys.
Yeah.
I'm glad it brought
Just
you joy.
You know what? Mingyugi, August D, Suga's releasing an album. Don't be sad that I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Just be happy that I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy for you when you're happy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Yeah.
But now we will say thank you for listening.
Annyeong.
All right, so hey everybody, this is Leah, and I'm sitting here with a very special guest at the moment, who is my husband, Nick. Nick, say hi.
Hi.
So I've asked Nick if he would be game enough to field a question I have for him. He doesn't know the context of this question, but it is very connected to a key point of, debate that we're having over Alchemy of Souls. So Nick, this is the context. Let's say someone swapped souls with you. So an old crusty boss in the past basically makes a deal with you and says, as my employee, I need you to swap souls with me for a week because I'm old and I'm dying and I just want to live in a healthy body for a short amount of time. So being a giver, you say, yes, you can take over my body. So the king, in this case, takes over a character's body. So imagine this person that is in control of your body and then comes home and decides the whole motivation I've had to swapping into your body is to hit it with me. So your body hits it with me, with someone else's soul inside of you, and gets me pregnant. Do you consider that child to be yours? Yes or no?
I guess what you want plays a lot into this. Like,
I'm dead. I give birth to the baby and die immediately. And I also didn't necessarily know. I had no idea that, I thought I was just humping you. and then I get pregnant and I die.
Okay, so you're not a part of this
No.
deal. Then, but wait, what's my choice?
Your choice is, do you accept the child that I carried and birthed as your own?
No.
Or not?
No.
So even though your DNA is 100% that child's DNA.
I'm not sure.
I need you to figure out an answer. This is a black and white world.
And you're dead.
Yeah, but me being dead is like the side point. Is that child your child? Will you accept it as your child, or will you be like, that is a bastard?
No, it's my child. It's got my DNA, and if I raise it, yeah, it'll be mine.
So you feel like you would just honor it as yours, even though your boss is...
Is my boss still around? Is he going to come visit on the weekends?
No, he's not asking for paternity, but he does want to make it known that will be his heir.
Now you keep changing the rules. Sure, why not? I could adopt any old child under the right circumstances. Why is this any different?
Because you might feel a little bitter about the circumstances.
But in things that I would feel bitter about in life, on that spectrum, this isn't really.
So I guess, yeah, less morals, more science. Accurately speaking, do you feel like that is your child or a bastard?
Yeah, scientifically, it's mine.
But socially and emotionally.
Socially and emotionally, I still haven't figured that out.
All right. Thank you for your time, Dr. Holmes.
Okay, so this is Megan, and I am here with my husband, Neil. So, Neil, say hi.
Hi.
Okay. Okay, so Neil, here's the deal. In the drama we covered, so the podcast that we talked about last night, it's called Alchemy of Souls. Okay, so there's soul swapping. Okay? Okay, so listen. So say someone, like, I don't know, let's say like an old boss. That's the scenario that Leah used. An old boss swapped souls with you. So he's in your body. So it's your body, but it's his soul. And the only reason he's doing that is because he wants to bang me and impregnate me, Megan. Okay? So I happen to be ovulating, just luckily. And I get pregnant. Is that your baby? Or is that your boss's baby? What do you think?
It's an interesting scenario.
I know.
Like, what? What's your definition of what definition of a soul? Like,
well,
what do I...
Well, correct. I mean, it's your body, so theoretically,
That's
whatever.
Not a word.
It's like is it your sperm or like, is it your soul?
I would go the scientific DNA route.
Okay. So would you accept that, except I'm dead now. I died in childbirth. So would you accept that baby and raise it as your own because it was your body? And what if the boss is like, no, it's my baby because my soul was in it. My soul was in your body, so it's my baby. Would you be like, no, because it's my baby?
How's he still connected to the soul? Like, how's he still like...
Well, he then went back to his old body because you were in his old crusty body while he was banging me in your hot body.
So the souls swapped back?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so the souls swap back, so now you're back in your body, I'm dead, but there's a baby, and he's trying to say it's his, so would you be like, no, it's mine? Because it was my swimmers?
Your swimmers?
I'm saying your swimmers.
And sorry, what's the question at this point? If I would accept this?
Yeah, like, would you be like, no, it's my baby?
I suppose so. I guess so. I don't know. I don't think this is a very likely scenario.
Okay.
So I'm not really giving it that much deep thought.
Okay. Thank you, Neil, for your insight.
Kamsahamnida. Thank you for listening to Afternoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AFTERNOONADELIGHT.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, Annyeong!